2016 is a year that a lot of people are not too fond of, and it's hard to believe that's been 6 years since that year because the world has changed so much since then with all the crazy stuff that has happened from mass shootings to COVID to, the war in Ukraine. There's a lot of stuff that has happened since 2016, and there's an endless list I could spend all day talking about. But when it comes down to 2016, one of the things that came out of that year that was horrible was Mighty Number 9. Now, the question is, was the game as bad as people said it was? I don't think the game was quite as bad as people make it out to be, but it was still not good at all. And you look at the game itself, like the gameplay and the visual design and all that stuff, it's very uninspiring. It was like almost the opposite of what people expected when the Kickstarter campaign started up back in 2013. Now, before the game was released, there was a lot of hype for this title because people thought it was going to be this generation's Mega Man. And I believe with the Kickstarter campaign, the person who started the campaign had reached his goal in terms of earning revenue or in terms of like raising funds within like 2 days or something like that. And because of that, a lot of people thought this could be like the next Mega Man, but when the game came out in 2016, a lot of people were let down by what they saw, and a lot of it has to do with the execution. Like, for example, like the voiceover acting that took place in the game was something that wasn't really needed because you look at the older Mega Man games, for the most part, there was no like voice acting or anything like that in the classics, and they were considered to be classics. Like you look at Mega Man X, Mega Man 3, Mega Man 2, look at like pretty much all the Mega Man games in the 90s, there's really no voiceover acting, there's just dialogue that you can read on the screen, fast-paced run and gun action along with catchy, memorable theme songs for each boss and each stage. Now you look at this game, there isn't a memorable boss or character in the game at all. You know what I mean? And not only that, Mighty Number 9, who is also known as Beck, I believe. I believe that's Mighty Number 9's real name. Pretty much, he was not as popular as Mega Man. And the thing is, he just looked like a cuckier beta version of Mega Man, and a lot of people looked at this like, something, this is not, especially like those who were like fans of the older Mega Man like games, a lot of people looked at this and thought it was a poor man's Mega Man. And honestly, like when I looked at the artwork for Mighty Number 9, like to me it looked like it was basically what Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal was to the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Series in terms of just coolness and in terms of visual design and everything. It was like a step down, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people felt the same way. And I feel like the game itself could have been a lot better if Deep Silver had used if they had used, I guess, a better art style. Like, for example, you look at Ubisoft's Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, like the visuals in that game were amazing. Like if Mighty Number 9 had those kind of visuals, it could have been more visually appealing. Or if like cell shaded graphics were used, like 2D cell shaded graphics, like that would have been a better choice in terms of like visuals and all that stuff for Mighty Number 9. The bosses were very hard in that game from what I heard, and don't get me wrong, like the bosses and the levels from the older Mega Man games were also very difficult as well. But there had been talk of some of the level designs being flawed and all that, and honestly, I feel like that's something that kind of like brought the game down a couple of notches, along with all the other stuff that was not good about Mighty Number 9. Also, like, the year it came out in, 2016 was not a good year because I believe a lot of people, especially in America, were just hating on various things because they realized life was getting worse and they were not impressed by anything. You look at some of the major movies that came out in 2016, I believe there was like a Suicide Squad movie that came out that year, and people were just, they thought it was horrible, you know what I mean? And then I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Batman versus Superman movie came out that year, and a lot of people hated it. But I think it has less to do with like the movie itself and more to do with the concept, because you look at the whole Batman Superman thing, I feel like it's it was too late. It was like really late, like decades late. It should have been done a long time ago. Also, Batman versus Superman the movie was released years after the Injustice series started back in 2013, so it really didn't make any sense whatsoever. But yeah, like there wasn't a lot of good things that came out of 2016 in general. Mighty Number Nine being one of them, and I feel like it's one of those games that if it was released like years earlier, like sometime in like 08, 09, or like sometime in the early teens between 2010 or 2011, it could have been a little bit more popular than it actually was, especially considering the fact that the Mega Man series had been on hiatus for a long time because I believe Mega Man 10 had come out back in like, I believe it was somewhere between like '09 and 2010, if I'm not mistaken. But like the Mega Man series had been on a hiatus, and I do feel that if Mighty Number Nine had come out years earlier, it could have been a little bit more popular than it was. But unfortunately, that's not the case, and it was what it was, and it doesn't look like we're ever going to see a sequel to this game because nobody really wants it.